Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And today we are talking about relationships. And I'm going to be sharing with you some interesting nuggets from the latest book called ENRICH, the practical guide to systemic enrichment for love, abundance, fulfillment, and happiness. And it's sort of a journey of why relationships. Of course, we always, I believe, do what we need for ourselves. So as I work with couples and families and people who have challenges in relationships, I had those challenges myself too. Going through 2 marriages, multiple relationships in the past, I was curious what makes the relationships successful and fulfilled and happy and whatnot. And as I started researching this topic, I wrote my first little book that you can also download. It's a free book called Enrich Your Relationships, 10 Secrets to Rekindle Your Intimate Life, a beginner's guide as part of Psychology of Human Enrichment on Darya Haitoglou.com website. But also the latest one that is a bit deeper, and just to start this conversation and exploration for all of us. Relationships is one of the most difficult, but also the most rewarding parts of our life, and the topic that deserves a lot of attention, because the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life. It's almost a direct correlation. How we establish, how we maintain, as well as how we end or not our relationships, is how our life is and how we are in that life. So I would like to start just by reading a few things, and you may not have a book next to you. If you do have a book, that's brilliant, because I can just refer you to the page and we can do that together. So as we start, you know, it's great when things go great, right? And that's the beginning of the book. Smooth life is running like water over rocks, clear and fresh. But there are other times when we feel stuck. And when that happens, we question many aspects of who we are and whether we're worthy of love, respect, whether we are good enough, clever enough, pretty enough, healthy enough, deep enough, whether we are worthy of having a great partner, having a great job, having that great deep connection with someone. We sabotage ourselves. And that pattern repeats itself again and again when we are under pressure or stress. Familiar? We all know bits of this story. It's human, it's fundamental, and there is a way to move forward. The secret is to look back, but gently. Go deep and back in time into your family of origin. Remember a person who you felt connected to and are still loyal to, a person who would have had a similar story, who would have appreciated that inner saboteur. Often this person is a grandparent or a member of our family that had a secret or something that was not fully accepted but by their close ones. Imagine that you look into their eyes and say, "Thank you for reminding me about that part that was rejected by the family. I see it. Now look gently on me as I live a great and fulfilled life." When we acknowledge a part of ourselves that was rejected by someone in the original family system we come from, we heal it. We release it. We let it go from our subconscious mind and bring it to our consciousness. And with that, a small miracle may happen. A lady who came to a workshop had difficulties with her son's behavior. During the session, a previous marriage was revealed. She confirmed that it was a total secret to her family, including her current husband and her son from the current marriage. She realized that, surprisingly, her son exhibited a similar behavior to her previous husband without knowing anything about him. This sounds mysterious, but we see this type of family dynamics a lot. A strong pattern is created when someone or something gets rejected. It can even be passed down the generations. So you have a great opportunity to heal a part of your family system by looking back. That way, we can move forward more freely. That's the beginning from the chapter, Looking Back to Move Forward. And then we start with the ENRICH method, as many of you already know. And then we'll look into the systemic beliefs, principles, and values. It's very important to take some time to reflect upon the beliefs you hold about your relationships. Beliefs are the key to unlocking the success of relationships. I choose to believe the following. Change is always possible, especially with awareness. We cannot change past events, but we can definitely change the way we deal with them. People often repeat familiar patterns dating back from their childhood, even if the patterns are no longer helpful. To change dysfunctional patterns, we must explore what we want rather than reliving our old story. Behind our fears lie our biggest dreams. People connect on the basis of similarities and grow on the basis of differences. Appreciating the past helps us to enjoy our present. We have choices, especially in terms of responding to stress instead of reacting to situations. Communication to relationships is like breath to life. Be the change you want to see. Start with yourself and others will follow. There are only two signs of energy around us, plus and minus. We choose which one to be. If we treat every challenge that comes into our life with respect, we get to learn the most from it. There is a diamond in every person. The people around us, the people we live with, and especially our children, are our teachers. As children, we learn everything we can from our parents, both useful tools and more detrimental habits. Later, we have an opportunity to relearn what we don't want to keep. And the final one, honesty is important for growth. Truthful communication is fundamental to enriching relationships. So these are some of the beliefs that I hold, but also I would love you to reflect upon. What kind of relationship, values, principles, and beliefs do you have in your life? When we formed a relationship with my husband, and I like to call him soulmate, Alex, we made a plan that included not just what we would like as a family, as a couple, as individuals, but also our long-term mission, our long-term vision, our long-term goals. And these goals were not just for relationship, but also what kind of family we would like, what kind of feelings we would like to feel, what kind of things we would like to do, what kind of financials we would like to have, what kind of rules and values would we like to have for the future family. That helped us go through the difficult bits. But we did that when we were in good space at the beginning. And that's also very important. A lot of young couples or people who redecide to get back together, it's a really helpful tool that I often share with my clients, and it helps. There are also very interesting considerations. You know, what is a relationship? There's a whole presentation that I'm going to do on relationship is like riding a bicycle. One wheel consists of all aspects of your life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And the other wheel is the inner workings of your partner. If you have damaged wheels, if parts of your wheel or your partners are not working, you won't go very far on your bike. To have a good ride, you need to look after both wheels. And of course, this is something that, we will look into how to make sure that all all of these different aspects, like mandala, are in a healthy state. How do we look after that? Now, let's talk a little bit about the relational conscience. It's a very interesting and complicated term, but I like it, and I look at it from a point of a systemic relationship, because in order for us to have great relationship in life, it's not just individual goals. Systemic pool or family patterns, they override our individual priorities. Where we come from, the system, the family we come from, has such an important influence on us and our behavior and our choices that it's crucial to look into that. So what is relational conscience? A relational conscience is a cognitive process that elicits emotion and rational associations based on an individual's value system in terms of relating to others and to themselves. Now, in the context of systemic enrichment, a relational conscience is an energy field organized to support a system. Our behavior and thought processes are governed by principles of conscience. Through an inner moral compass, we know what is right and what is wrong for our own preservation. You can see it, for example, by looking at a child's behavior when he has done something he's not supposed to. He knows this from the inside, instinctively. Similar to a layered shell, we have different levels of conscience. At the center point, there's individual conscience, then there's a family, there's the society, then it's like a whole world one. So as these levels expand, they have also the power that expands. So we want to look into these levels in order for us to enrich our relationships. They're all interconnected, and they influence our behavior and thought processes in our brain, in our mind. In biology, physics, and chemistry, scientists are investigating the principles of consciences through such terms as morphogenetic fields, fields that arguably govern the shape and form and memory of species. Qualia, phenomenal aspects of our mental life, and through observing the effects of biogenesis, the natural restoration faculty of organs and beings. A practical example of the effect of biogenesis can be seen in the form of restoration of amphibians or salamander. In fact, if a salamander's limb is damaged, the missing part will naturally grow back. This is also true for magnets, for example. When a magnet is split in two, it doesn't lose the magnetic effect of the removed part. Both halves start behaving like magnets. Their essence is re-established rather than lost. This could be due to the work of the morphogenetic field that keeps the memory of the magnetic force and realigns it in a new form, according to Rupert Sheldrake in his book. By the same token, the family conscience is greater than the individual conscience, and hence it influences its components. We see this in many family conflicts where a wife and a husband coming from different family systems have different inherent loyalties to their family systems. Their inner conscience have difficulty coinciding with the system they need to adapt to. In the hope of finding balance in a more coherent way, inner work is needed to disentangle the conflicting familial values. Both partners must let go and create a new family system that has its own navigating principles of life and love flow. If a recent couple fails to let go of previous loyalties, its relationship may struggle to be coherent and peaceful. Family system and its principles are of particular interest for the family therapy practice and business reality, as people create family or business relationships and connections based on how they were loved as children, on what rules and principles they have learned directly or indirectly from their family. And now we move into the 5 principles of systemic enrichment. So the phenomenological psychology and experiential observation suggest the existence of invisible governing rules or principles across generations. This is true all around the world, irrespective of backgrounds, gender, or age, as written by Bert Hellinger, the creator of family constellations. He writes a lot about these rules, so I paraphrased them and included them in the book, and I think they're very important just to start thinking about our relationships from different perspectives. So first principle is called love tries to flow no matter what. So love always tries to find a way to flow. The most important thing we need to do is to tune into the flow of love, to pause and let it have an effect on us. Love is a generative and intuitive energy field that is the foundation of our soul and of the universe itself. Love is the ultimate state of being, and we can always tap into it by remembering its presence. The emotional, mental, or physical blockages resulting from the interrupted flow of love are just field distortions. This has an impact on our rejuvenation process. A silent and calm way of being is our preferred natural state. Being closer to nature, tuning in and listening to our body is a step towards our inner healing. Participating in the systemic enrichment practices is one of the fastest ways to restore our connection with the flow of love, according to Price. Second principle, as part of a system, everyone and everything has the right to belong and to be loved within that system. There are no positive and negative, right and wrong aspects of the systemic conscience. By nature, the conscience is neutral. Our attention and meaning-making is what polarizes the energy, giving it a plus or a minus sign, just as quantum mechanics has shown that an intention or an idea about the result of an experiment can influence the experiment's outcome. This has implications for the members of the system that have been rejected or forgotten, especially if someone has behaved in a way that clashes with the system. For example, an unwanted, aborted baby, the rejected element of a system, might lead a member of the following generation to display signs of depression or even to attempt suicide. All cases of miscarriage or abortions have their root cause in this layer of family systems conscience. With the restoration of the systemic second principle, the family conscience breathes more easily. There's a lot of work done by Mark Walling in his book, It Didn't Start With Me. It doesn't start with me. So something to look into if you're curious about that layer. The third principle is called the older and larger part of the system prevails over the younger and smaller one. The older the generation, the more power it has over the system. The system prefers the older parts and commits the younger parts to its restoration. Similar to investment management, we look after our largest investments with more care and attention than we do after the small ones. This is reflected in the amount of energy we dedicate to each. In human experience, this layer is commonly prevalent. One extreme example is the tragic case of Jewish women who would sacrifice their younger children in favor of older kids when they were asked to choose which child would be left to live during the Holocaust. Most of them chose the older one. Perhaps out of love for their parents, children choose, mostly unconsciously, to sacrifice their life, health, and well-being in order to restore the balance of the system. We see this in cases of divorce when a parent is struggling. A child might take the parent's suffering upon himself as if to say, I will take your fate so you can live. In case of illness, such as autoimmune conditions, the restoration of this principle is especially important in order to disentangle the child from the parent or from a member of a previous generation, according to the Hellinger's order of love. Fourth principle, change is always possible through the younger members of the system. The younger members of the system can rebalance the whole system and open new possibilities for the future generations. This has implications for each following generation. It also creates the opportunity to impact on the past generation by restoring the flow of love and generating positive change. This principle offers an understanding that on the level of the conscience, all members are interconnected and time is only relative. A practical example is that of a grandson who experienced a similar fate to his father and his grandfather. They were successful businessmen, but chronically unhappy due to their complicated relationship with their wives. By doing the systemic work, the great-grandson has developed the freedom to choose a different model of behavior and to build a healthier family system. This, in its turn, helped his father to create a more peaceful and loving bond with his partner. And finally, fifth principle, by healing our system, we allow the healing of other systems too. Based on the morphogenetic fields theory, learning theory, quantum physics, and studies on animals, we know that when one member of the field learns a new, more effective way of life, the other members of the same species, even at a distance, learn that automatically too. One of the examples from the animal kingdom is a published study at Harvard in 1920 by McDougall of white rats whose task was to learn to escape from a specially constructed tank by swimming to one of two gangways that led out of the water. The wrong gangway was brightly illuminated, while the right gangway was not. In each generation, the rats from which the next generation were to be bred were selected at random before their rate of learning was measured, although mating took place only after they were tested. This procedure was adopted to avoid any possibility of conscious or unconscious selection in favor of quicker learning rats. This experiment was continued for 32 generations and took 15 years to complete. In accordance with the Lamarckian theory, there was a marked tendency for rats in successive generations to learn more quickly. Agar and his colleagues at Melbourne University carried out a similar experiment over a period of 20 years. They measured the rates of learning of trained and untrained lines for 50 successive generations. In agreement with McDougall, they found that there was a marked tendency for rats of the trained line to learn more quickly in subsequent generations. But exactly the same tendency was also found in the untrained line. Sheldrake. Similar in effect, generational healing happens from one system to another, based on the premise that we are all interconnected and our DNA is 98% similar. We are, in fact, the same species learning from each other knowingly or unknowingly. Our task is to embrace the systemic aspect of our relationship conscience and start exploring it mindfully. The following exercise is a great start in doing so, especially if you want to build a healthy relationship with a partner. I call this exercise 18-question chat. 18 questions. You can write them down, or if you have a book, it's on the page 54. If you don't know how to launch an exploration of your relationship, you can imagine that you don't know each other. Start asking different questions. Be curious about each other. Knowing each other's history creates awareness and can prevent breakups and dissatisfaction at work or at home. Answer on your own or take turns with your partner to answer the following questions. Number 1, given the choice of anyone in your family of origin, who do you feel most connected to and why? Second question, what were your parents' relationships like? Number 3, what are some significant things that happened in your family history, both positive and negative? Number 4, what were your grandparents like? 5, what were the spoken and unspoken rules of your parents' families when they were little? 6, what is your relationship with your father? Even if he's not alive anymore, we always have relationships in our head with our family members. Number 7, what do you value most in a friendship? Number 8, what is your most treasured memory? Number 9, what is your most terrible memory? 10, if you knew that you will die suddenly in a year from now, what would you change about the way you are living now and why? 11, what roles do love and affection play in your life? 12, alternate sharing something that you consider a positive characteristic of your partner. Share a total of 5. 13, how close and warm is your family? Do you feel your childhood was happier than most people? 14, how do you feel about your relationship with your mother? 15, make 3 true we statements each. For instance, in this room, we are both feeling da da da. 16, complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share blah, blah, blah. 17, tell your partner something that you have never shared with him or her about your body. And finally, 18, share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how he or she might handle it. Also, ask your partner to reflect back on how you seem to be feeling about the problem you have chosen. Now, you go on a date with your partner and start asking these questions. See how your intimacy improves. And I include also case studies of there's Louise and John, how they did this exercise and what happened to their relationship, and also Angela and Thomas. And we will actually finish with this, but I will read this last second case study. Angela and Thomas admit they have not been interested in each other physically for a long time. They stay in their partnership, as they say, mainly because of their children. Angela is the one who contacts me first and comes for a session. Angela, what do you like physically about Thomas? I like his face and he has a masculine body. I'm sure other women like him, but I just don't feel a physical attraction towards him. I think I know him so well that there is nothing to explore. What are his talents? What is his hobby? He used to like to play guitar and drums. He doesn't anymore. Maybe because of the kids or because of work. He keeps whining about the amount of work he has to do, and he's grumpy a lot of the time. Maybe that's why. Remember when he was into guitar and drums, how did you feel towards him? I asked. Oh, that was a good time in our life. We had lots of sex, said Angela. How can you help him create that time and space? Are there other resources he would need to restart playing the guitar? I asked her. Angela said, I could take care of the kids or arrange a babysitter for a few hours a week so he can get some time for music and also to get out of the house. A couple of weeks go by and I receive a wonderful message from Angela. She says they are fine. Thomas is involved in a local band and they have agreed to play in a bar where Angela would come to hear them. She sounds excited. She also mentions that the results were immediate. They enjoyed intimacy the night she discussed this opportunity with Thomas. It seems it was all in place already. So now, back to you. What do you need to restart doing what you love? Share that with your partner. Talk to them and reclaim that time and space. And that is the end of the first exploration part of the book called ENRICH, a practical guide to systemic enrichment for love, abundance, fulfillment, and happiness. I hope you have learned something about your relationship. I hope you noted down some of the questions from the 18 question chat. I encourage you to get hold of this book. It's on Amazon, and it's a wonderful hardcover where you can write in your answers or just listen to this recording again, pause and write your answers in your journal. I look forward to hearing about your exploration and how you can improve and enrich your relationship with your partner, but also, and most importantly, with yourself.